young people now are luckier than our generation and even older generation.
In terms of working in media.
Opportunities in media.
What would be your tips to talk to these super high-profile, famous people? Because na-mention mo sa akin, they will only give you 5 to 10 minutes and they have a lot of distractions
Usually.
that come in, right? What would you give tips to our people listening now? Welcome everyone, and welcome back to Pandesal Talks. If you notice today in our episode, there's something unique behind me and Mr. Wilson, no? There is a whiteboard here, right? And why is that, no? Because today, we want to use this whiteboard for Wilson to teach us some media 101, right?
Anything you want to ask?
Diba? So, Wilson,
Yes.
in this whiteboard, makikita natin that
Yes.
you are a real estate entrepreneur, right? For Red Apple Properties. Pero you are also a business owner of Kamuning Bakery Cafe.
Because
right?
of real estate also.
Because of real estate also, right? So,
Land
Wilson,
was sold to me.
today's focus would be, among all of these entrepreneurships that you've had, no? Where does media come into play, right? And how did media amplify the things that you do in real estate and in business?
Actually,
Okay.
yung media part is my hobby.
Okay.
It's like some people, they play badminton. Some people, they play the guitar or the piano. I write as a hobby.
Okay.
I write and read to relax, to
Okay.
unwind.
Right.
Actually, it's not part of the business.
Okay.
But more people know me as a writer because it's more visible.
Okay.
My picture is in the newspaper
Exactly.
column,
And
and people interview me sometimes.
yeah.
But it's actually a hobby.
And I'd like to think, when
It's a pastime.
when buying a property from someone like yourself who is plastered all over
Sometimes.
TV,
Sometimes.
Facebook and whatnot,
Yes.
right? Agad may credibility.
But
Right?
I don't mix the selling with before. I keep selling lang. When I was selling a lot of real estate, 95, 96, 97,
Correct.
I wasn't writing anything. I was resting from writing kasi that was through the years naman. The real estate that I do is I don't really sell mainly.
Okay.
I buy real estate and then I lease it out to other people.
Nice.
So it's a lazy person's business.
Awesome. Actually, napaisip nga ako, Wilson, when you reflect upon your time in the media
Yes.
realm then, di ba?
Yes.
What do you think are the opportunities that this world has brought you, regardless if it's financially,
yes.
economically, to where you are now?
Yung writing part is very nice relaxation. There are things.
Therapeutic.
There's a book. Ang title ng book is Flow. Flow.
Yep.
There is a psychological term yan eh. There are things in life that you do na when you do it, you lose sense of time and space.
Yep.
Nawawala yung sense mo of you're relaxing talaga. You don't remember your problems. You don't One of them is writing. When I'm writing something in the middle of writing, parang I don't care about That's when I am invited as a writer, you get invitations to all sorts of places. When I go out of the country, when I go inside a bookstore, it's also like that. When I enter a bookstore, I forget everything. I just look at all the books I want to buy or I want to read. It's pure relaxation.
Right.
It's what some people do to relax and unwind.
Right.
Kaya I look at it purely as relaxation.
How about in terms of the people that you've met along the way, no?
Yes. I get to meet people along the way, all kinds of people. But even without my writing, I tend to meet a lot of people kasi. And I tend to remember everyone.
You're a social magnet, no?
I try to, kaya
Yeah.
I do real estate without really mixing with my writing.
Yep.
But I think my writing and love of reading books has benefited me in a way na I have more empathy.
Correct.
When I talk to anyone, I don't care whether that guy is a janitor or president of the Philippines or movie star.
Yep.
I am genuinely interested in that person, in their stories, and I talk to them.
Galing.
Sabi nga ng sekretary ko, sir, inuubos mo mga calling card mo. Mag-run ka ba barangay chairman o congressman, ubos na nga. I give calling cards to everyone I meet.
Have you ever thought of running politically?
No, I just want to run in the streets. kasi I have very, very non-traditional views.
Right.
In fact, if you have time, Lance, i-google mo, philstar.com, Wilson Flores, why I will not run for president. I had a funny column. It's a satire column. Why I will not run for president and why people should not vote for me. Warning yun eh.
I see.
All the things I want to do. Like
Yep.
draconian reforms, mga weird, tough things. Worse than Lee Kuan Yew.
Wilson, siguro napaisip lang ako, right?
Yes.
Siguro may nakikinig sa atin, right, that are journalism students,
Yes.
journalism professionals,
It's a
right?
very good profession.
Correct. But I want you
Journalism.
to tell us upfront, no?
Yes.
Let's say these two bubbles here,
Yes.
the business and the real estate, is out of the equation, and it's just purely in the media space. Do you think that that's a sustainable profession?
They are very lucky, the young people now compared to, I'm not old, I'm not young, I'm in between old and young. But young people now are luckier than our generation and even older generation.
In terms of working in media.
Opportunities in media because of the internet.
The internet, right?
You have the internet, you can communicate with everyone.
Yep.
The whole world is your market.
Yep.
So if you're very good in writing, you're a good journalist, you have the basics of journalism and creative writing, whatever, you can work anywhere, everywhere. What do I mean anywhere? Anywhere, that means you can be employed in New York, you can work in Shanghai, you can be working for a media company in Singapore or Dubai because your talent is everywhere. And you don't have to wait weeks or months like the time of our grandparents.
Yeah.
Now you write a letter 1 month, 2 months, and then wait for the letter to come 1 month, 2 months, and you don't know where to look for the opportunities. Now with just a click of the internet, you can search for all the opportunities and boundless opportunities. And you can also write just sitting in your home in the province, in the mountains, in the boondocks. You can write there your own novel, you can write there your own poetry or article and be published in New York, Singapore, Shanghai. So the opportunities now are almost boundless.
Right.
The problem lang, young people should not be distracted by too much trash in the internet. Trash meaning too much entertainment, too much
noise,
temporary noise.
Yep.
Baka your energy will be wasted everywhere. If you can use the internet for your professional, intellectual progress, you can be Superman. The journalists now and the book writers now are better off than people in the past generation.
I see. Siguro, next question.
Yes. I'll drink coffee ulit, brewed coffee.
I would think, this is $1 million question, right? Let's say a genie comes into our session today and tells you, Wilson, I will be giving you 10 million pesos.
Yes.
Or I will give you the credibility to be the most famous, most credible columnist in Quezon City. What would you pick?
The second one, dapat hindi Quezon City in the Philippines.
Kulang ang Quezon City pag 10 million, right? Pag 10 million.
Kasi Quezon City is the largest city in the country.
Why do you say that?
Kasi there are things that is more priceless, I think. There are things that are priceless. Yung credibility, your enjoyment. Money naman, that doesn't mean I don't need it. You can earn it gradually through other means. Pero if you earn credibility and people consider you credible, it's more important, I think, than earning money.
Nakwento mo nga, Wilson, right? Before, when you were doing, real estate, di ba?
Yes.
In that 5 to 10 minutes that the big famous people will give you, what you really want is to establish relationship first.
Yes.
And the sales will follow.
Yes.
Right?
Communication,
relationship, taking an interest, taking an empathy to that person. Di ba?
Yeah, I think education in journalism, history, liberal arts, whatever other field, will make you a more interesting salesperson, a more interesting senator, a more interesting engineer, architect, or scientist.
Galing.
make you a better person.
That's very interesting. Actually, that's what this show really wants to, bring to the table, right? A lot of people aspire to earn a lot,
Yes.
right? But I'd like to think as well that earning could also be in the form of earning credibility
And-
along the years.
And if you have, the
Diba?
earning of the financial part would follow it.
Exactly.
Would
Exactly, right? Now, it could be in your first few years, medyo maging tough break yan, right? For people to believe what you're writing and what you're doing a forum with. But later on, tuloy-tuloy na yan. Like, evident here with Wilson's life and Wilson's career, diba?
I'm
So,
still learning lot.
Yun, napaka-humble naman talaga.
You have to learn non-stop. In fact, some of the best business people I've interviewed,
Correct.
I noticed they love to read. They read non-stop. They
Yep.
ask questions non-stop. And maniwala ka, si Mr. Lucio Tan, one of the wealthiest persons in the Philippines, when he was an adult already, he still has in-house tutor pa for different classes.
And that's for him.
For personal him.
Wow.
Lucio Tan one time, he hired the Ateneo famous
Ang Beto Campo.
professor.
Ang Beto
Yes,
Campo,
for
correct?
private tutorial on history and Onofre Pagsanhan of Ateneo for literature yata,
Wow.
for Filipino language classes. And hired a retired Xiamen University professor
To learn Mandarin.
to learn Mandarin and Chinese philosophy and history.
Right.
Imported him to the house.
And this is when he was a super rich guy
a
already.
billionaire already.
Grabe.
And made this retired professor of Xiamen University and the wife stay in the guest house of his compound and gave him a car and a driver, everything, daily
Grabe.
expenses. And every time he has free time, he would call up that professor. I have free time now, 1 hour, 2 hours. Can I ask my helicopter to go and fetch you, bring you to Makati, and then we'll have classes?
Makati lang in helicopter already, right?
That's less than 10 minutes. I tried it.
Yeah.
He invited me once to have lunch. Sabi ko, impossible, I cannot reach you. I'm in Quezon City.
Pina-helicopter.
Sabi niya, Quezon City, just go to my house in Banawe daw. Andun na helicopter daw. And then he'll fetch
Rich
me.
man problems.
Then
Rich
he
man
fetched me
problems.
from Makati. Pina-fetch niya ako sa Banawe. From Banawe, I took the first and only Metro Manila helicopter
Oh my
ride I've
God.
taken in my life to Makati, Ayala Avenue, his office.
Right.
Then from there, we took a helicopter to his hotel in Century Park
Right.
Hotel.
That's
Nakakatawa.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Wilson, I want to segue, right? You mentioned, diba, you've interviewed Lucio Tan before.
Yes.
You've interviewed Gong Wei before, Henry C. before,
And many others.
and
yes.
many other famous people like former VP Lenny, diba? Current
Yun,
president.
hindi siya interview.
More
She
of-
came to speak at Pandesal Forum 3 times.
Correct, diba? And even Senator Ping Lacson, diba? And whatnot,
also
right?
came here. The new Senate President, no, not yet. That Senate President, si Subiri,
Yun.
the Speaker, Martin Valdez,
Right. So,
all kinds of people.
yung inisip ko here, Wilson, is, for those people that are listening to our podcast, right? What would be your tips to talk to these super high-profile, famous people? Because, na-mention mo sa akin, they will only give you 5 to 10 minutes and they have a lot of distractions
Usually.
that come in, right? What would you give tips to our people listening now whenever talking to high-profile? And if it's okay, sulat mo yung tips mo, maybe 1 to 2 tips, right?
Ako
In our
naman.
whiteboard,
Oo.
talking to high-profile people.
Ito.
Listening.
Kasi
Listening.
even
No?
it's not only the famous people, whether in business, politics, or entertainment, even ordinary people, your friends, your neighbor, your own parents, your grandparents, we hardly sit down and listen to them. Even to our friends and relatives, we love to talk and others listen. But the best conversationalist is the person who listens and asks questions.
Okay.
This is not for famous ask.
Okay.
Ask sensible, interesting questions. Sensible, hindi nonsense na
what would you say are sensible questions, especially when you're talking to high-profile people?
Depende on the field of that person.
Okay.
Depende on what his interests are.
Okay.
You have to adjust. Some famous people are intelligent, some famous people are not intelligent. So, case to case. And then, importante, you ask questions based on what interests them, not always what interests you. Sometimes naman,
What interests them? Wow.
sometimes naman what interests us
Yeah.
is interesting to them. I remember one person telling me he likes talking to me daw kasi every time I ask questions, he remembers things daw and napapaisip daw siya. He gets a thing. So listen, ask questions.
Yeah. What do you think these famous people find interesting? Is it always politics?
Ito naman, I always take notes.
Take notes, okay.
Pero
Okay.
this is not normal. I'm not a normal, I like to take notes. Some people nowadays, people tendency is, this is for journalists who want to interview. People usually just rely on the cell phone, recording, record, then go home, then okay na. In my case, I always have a lot of paper. I have a lot of yellow pad or bond paper, and I always have 2 or 3 ball pens. And I tend to write everything down.
Yep.
I discovered and I read later on, when you write things down, it helps you remember things. The act of writing, like for example, you're in class, the professor is teaching. Some people nowadays, mga students, they just open the recorder and na lang, bahala na.
Do you think, Wilson, you might risk turning off these high-profile people kapag nagno-notes ka sa mukha nila?
I'll tell you, I remember one time, there is only one person I remember, magugulat ka, ibang taon din naabutan na, si Cardinal Sin. Cardinal Sin, sanay siya na always being interviewed with a recorder. That I avoid kasi when you interview a famous person, some people, sometime in the conversation, will tell you off the record things. Pero pag naka-record yan, they would hesitate. They will not talk off the record. So I don't usually use recording. So whenever I keep on writing, sabi niya, uy, ito kukwento ko. Off the record, wag mo isulat ha. So I will write it down, pero nakalagay sa note ko ha, naka-X.
So you always
not for writing.
You always have that extra insight because of you not recording it. But they tell you more.
And I'll tell you, it's easier for me as a person who loves to write to transcribe. I'll tell you why. Because when you rely only on pure recording, example, I talk to a famous person, a rebel, a movie star, a president, or something. I talk to him for 2 hours. E di, naka-record 2 hours yan, di ba? If I go home and want to transcribe the interview, I have to replay everything more than 2 hours. Kasi every sentence, you have to rewind and then rewind and rewind. So the 2 hours would go to 3 to 4 hours yan. So in my case, make my life easier. Actually, they don't understand it. Make my life easier. I will keep on writing very fast notes. And then when I am at home, I just put it on the table. I will go directly and transcribe and write directly. Because I remember how they said it. I remember when they laughed. Nakalagay yan. They laughed, they smiled. So I transcribed. I remember one time I interviewed the Metrobank founder, Mr. George T.
George T. Yep.
It was very long interview, mga 1 or 2 hours. Tinawagan ako by another columnist, si Vic Agustin, called me up. Wilson, sino taga-transcribe mo? Who is transcribing for you? Ang sipag naman. It's very difficult to transcribe an interview, 1 or 2 hours.
Exactly.
It will, ako, he was shocked.
You did it yourself, no?
All the transcribing. Joma Season, I interviewed the founder of the Communist Party of the Philippines, 9,000 words interview. Lucio Tan also, mga 9,000 words, 6-hour interview yun si Lucio Tan, 6-hour interview. If I use recording 6 hours, I have to rewind and listen to it 8 to 10 hours again. And one more thing, writing it down doesn't intimidate even the most famous people. Because when you write down, it's not everything on tape. But if it's on tape, if they say things that are off the record, they will hesitate, they will stop. But no, they would know I'm just writing. So I enjoy writing down notes. Not only for interviews, anything. Because there's a Chinese saying, there's a Chinese proverb, the sharpest memory of human beings cannot compare to the weakest ink and paper.
Uy, alam ko yun
Ano ibig sabihin?
Yeah.
Kahit na pinakabulok, the weakest ink, the lightest ink, but you write it down on paper, after 1 year, 2 years, you still
That's
remember it.
beautiful. Yep.
But you have the best and strongest memory after 2 months. What did you say? Can you repeat exactly the words how you said it? And one thing ba I learned taking notes, not only for famous people, even for ordinary people. Whenever like I go to a reception, wedding party, somebody seated beside me during dinner, reception, wedding, 2 hours, di wala kang magawa, nothing to do. So small talk. What's your calling card? What are you doing? Ayan, ayun ng calling card. He will give me a calling card. I will get a ball pen. I will write down, where did you study? What is your hometown? What is your hobby? What do you do? Ganyan, ganyan. I just wrote some notes to remember when I see him 20 years later, I will remember easily. It's easier to remember. You try to Google that. Try to Google, I read somewhere, scientific study, people writing down notes, it helps in our memory.
Galing.
And it happened to me many times. After 15 years, 25 years, I met the guy, the doctor, a dentist, a businessman. And I tell him, kamusta na? Your wife, ganyan, how's your pet Labrador Retriever? Name, ganyan, ganyan. Diba? Your hobby, you're very good in football or you have a collection of something. Na-shock yung friend, the person, the acquaintance. How did you know all this? Are you CIA, FBI? 20 years ago, you were seated beside me for 2 hours. You were telling me all these things. Totally, they forgot that. So, writing down notes, not only for meeting famous people, for anything in the world. Kaya, I really like notes. I even have a small notebook at the back of my pocket.
In case anything comes up.
I always have paper and ball pen, the traditional way. You can take notes using the cell phone, but up to now, I still write paper and ball pen.
Correct. Wilson, you also mentioned to me before, I remember fondly that you said, you really prefer to talk, among the business tycoons, you really prefer to talk to the original.
To the founders.
To the founder, to the original, to the first generations, right?
My favorite.
Yes. I mean, it's fairly obvious, right? Obviously, you really want to talk to, the Henry C's of this world, right?
Get their stories.
And get their stories right. But from your perspective, why is that so? No, what do they tell you? What insights do they share you that you think might not come from generations that go after him?
I have a feeling it's not only Philippines, anywhere in the world. The rags to riches entrepreneurs, especially the immigrant rags to riches entrepreneurs, are a unique character, very inspiring. They not only possess success, influence, and wealth, but the magic of having started everything from scratch. To me, that's very unique. It's a unique experience. It's different. I'm not belittling people who inherited wealth, who inherited success.
Businesses.
It's not their fault. It's not bad. Some became greater. Like Alexander the Great became one of the greatest, if not the greatest conqueror in the world because the father was a king. If the father was not a king, he would not be Alexander the Great. He would just be Philip the king somewhere. But the founder, the rags to riches, self-made entrepreneur, more so the immigrant who uprooted himself from one country, sailed to another totally alien foreign society, and started from scratch and with all the disadvantages in life, created something of his a success, and it had a good impact on the world. To me, that's very inspiring. That's why I love those stories. That's why it was my hobby ever since I was in college up to now to write a lot of business stories, especially those stories.
Right. Iba pa rin yung you get to hear it from the people that struggled the most. And started it. Diba? Because these are things that as much as you'd want to pass it over to your next generation, you can only tell them the story about those struggles. Diba? Pero pagdating sa you enduring all of those struggles, right? Wala pang SMs before. Right? I believe it started with Shoemart, right? Iba, right? So,
Very
yeah.
interesting.
Thank you, Wilson.
In the future, you can have podcasts about each one of them. I will tell you
My God.
anecdotes about stories I got from them,
Wow.
which I have not all written.
Yeah, to our listeners, that could be, some future episodes that we will be doing in Pandesal Talks,
Yes.
right? The anecdotes, the quotes from these business tycoons,
I interviewed
all archived and chronicled in the mind of one Mr. Wilson Flores.
and in my columns.
And in your columns, diba? All right, thank you. That's it for episode
But you
3.
have to eat something before we end.
So, balik tayo sa ating Pandesal segment for the day.
Yes.
And Wilson, what are we seeing here today? No, it's actually a very vibrant colored bread. Could you tell us more about this? And
Yes.
bakit? What is with this bread? No, that's why you want us to talk about it today.
Lance, this is an example of sometimes crisis brings good things. Not all. Talagang,
May ganun
Yes. This is one of the good things that came out of the global pandemic crisis. During the pandemic, when everything was shut down, all the malls, all the bakery chains were shut down. Kamuning Bakery and other smaller bakeries operated continuously because our staff, our bakers and cooks are all stay in. So we were not bored lang. We had too much time on our hands and too many customers at that time. Kasi
Really?
yes,
Really?
incredible. I'll tell you, during the pandemic was the best years ever in the history of Kamuning Bakery.
Oh my God.
Alam mo, because all the competition, the big ones were closed. All the bakery chains, all the supermarkets were
Right.
closed, all the malls were closed. So, alam mo, wala pang lunchtime, ubos lahat ang bread sa amin like a locust. Parang sa Bible, the locusts would come and then wipe everything clean. This is one of the innovations of Kamuning Bakery.
What is this?
Cafe.
Is this an ube bread? Ano to?
This is ube cheese pandesal.
Ooh, okay.
This became popular during the pandemic. We started doing this with cheese inside and ube pandesal, incredibly delicious. Perfect with brewed coffee.
Bentang-benta, no?
Oh, yeah.
Bentang-benta, right? What gave you the idea to come up with putting cheese inside ube? Right now, though, it's very famous.
Yes, very famous.
Very famous now, right?
I'll tell you,
yeah, what's
during the pandemic, we created so many, we tried so many. We started sourdough baking.
Wow.
We started baking floss bread, Singapore style. We started Mexican style tortilla wraps.
Yep.
With the same flour, we did tortilla wraps. We had all kinds of pancit,
Yep.
hilao, because in the Philippines, we have a tradition in the Philippines eating bread with noodles. We are unique, double carbo, di ba? So we started all
Bigat.
kinds of
Big. All right. Thank you, Wilson,
Thank
for
you, Lance.
sharing us the pastry for the day or pandesal for the day, right?
And we have to eat this after.
And we definitely have to dine on this ube cheese pandesal in a bit, no? That's it for episode 3, and I hope you
Thank you,
learned a
Lance.
thing or two about the intersections of media and business through the life and through the lens of one Mr. Wilson Flores. Thanks, guys, and see you again in our next episode.
Thank you.